We've got 1 week left before spring break, so let's finish strong. And one of the ways that we can finish strong is by finishing our project, which wraps up everything for our module on the Harlem Renaissance. This project is worth 50 points, and the meat of it is this curator statement that you're writing right here. Remember, just as a recap, in this project, you're imagining that you are a museum curator, the person who creates the exhibits at museums, and you're creating an exhibit on the Harlem Renaissance. You're choosing 2 texts, or 3 if you want to do the bonus, and comparing them. So you choose 2 texts that you think have something in common, similar themes, or contrasting themes, and then you're writing about them in here. If you haven't chosen your texts or done the planning document yet, do that first and let me know that you're working on that so that I can help you out with it. If you need help choosing your texts, please let me know as well. All right, I'm going to talk paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 right here on our curator statement, and I'll put these links in Google Classroom and in the chat of classes so that you can reference this video even when I'm not able to help you immediately. All right, so in your curator statement right here, there's a couple links up at the top that you should have open. The first is the model curator statement, which is an example of an effective project. If you're looking for like how to word certain things or the type of language or the tone to use in your project, this is the place to go. Second is the project description along with the rubric. Each time you write a paragraph, check into the rubric and make sure that your paragraph matches the 4 level of the rubric so that you know you're writing an effective paragraph and you'll get full credit for all of this. Also, the rubric helps you know what to do with each paragraph, so it's a good place to go if you're feeling unsure. All right, let's take a look at paragraph 1, which is your context paragraph. Each paragraph asks you to do slightly more complex thinking, so the first 1 and 2 are fairly easy. Paragraph 3 is a little bit more difficult and asks you to do some creative thinking. Paragraph 1 is the context of the Harlem Renaissance. So in this paragraph, you're just telling me what you know about the Harlem Renaissance. One thing to note, each paragraph should be 3 to 5 sentences, and each paragraph has 3 questions or prompts at the start of, or in this box up here. So if you're not sure what to do on a paragraph, all you have to do is respond to each one of these prompts in at least a sentence, and you've got your 3 sentences as a minimum for your paragraph. So make sure you're responding to these things. Yours doesn't have to be exactly in the structure that I've provided here. I'm going to give you room for creativity, but this is a good place to start if you're not sure what to do. All right, paragraph 1 is asking, what was the Harlem Renaissance? Where did it occur? If you're looking for a way to come up with a definition, check our slides from the beginning of the unit, and then also tell me, like, where did the Harlem Renaissance happen? Who was creating the art? That kind of thing. This next one is asking what themes or ideas are generally present in art from the Harlem Renaissance. So as you're answering that, think about all of the texts that we have studied in my class so far. A lot of them have been about race in American society, racial identity. Some of them have been about trying to find who you truly are. A lot of them have been about celebrating Black culture. Any of those things are acceptable answers for this. So think about what have we been talking about over this past unit. Finally, this last bullet point is asking, what should the reader know about the Harlem Renaissance or this time period that will help them understand the art? So here you're going to give me specific context for your chosen art. And what I mean by that is, if you're writing about Lift Every Voice and Sing, you can tell me right here that one of the songs featured in this exhibit is now called the Black National Anthem, and it's frequently sung even today, 100 years after it was written. Or you could, if you're writing about a Langston Hughes poem, mention that one of the poets featured in this exhibit is probably the most famous poet from the Harlem Renaissance, Langston Hughes. Those kinds of things give the reader context for your art within the Harlem Renaissance broadly. All right, moving down to paragraph 2. Your second paragraph introduces the specific art you chose. If you finished the planning document, this one should be really simple for you to write because you've basically already written it. You're telling me in the first sentence the titles and the authors of the works that you chose. So you can say something like, in this exhibit, you'll see Lift Every Voice and Sing by James Weldon Johnson and The Harp, a sculpture by Augustus Savage. Something like that as an example of what you could be writing in your first sentence. Then you're going to tell me the theme for each text. Maybe that's the same theme for both texts, or maybe it's different themes, but you can tell me in that middle section of the paragraph. And then finally, we're going to get to the common or contrasting theme between the two texts. And this is pulled directly from your connection section of your planning document. So if you wrote in complete sentences in that section, you can probably just copy and paste it over. Like I said, once you have the planning document done, paragraph 2 should go really easily. Paragraph 3 is where it gets a little bit more complicated. This is the hook paragraph. So you've told the reader about the Harlem Renaissance. You've told them what art is going to be in the exhibit and what the exhibit will be about. Now you want to get them to walk into the exhibit and see it. So this gets them interested in the art and tells them how to appreciate the art. That last part is important. If you have not been to a art museum before or haven't looked at a curator statement before, frequently with like really difficult art or art that's hard to interpret, a curator will tell you what to think about as you approach the art so that you can have the best possible experience. You're doing the same thing here. Assuming that your reader knows nothing about the Harlem Renaissance and doesn't understand how to look at your art, you're telling them what to do. You're the expert in this situation. So invite the reader to experience the art and tell them what they should be thinking about as they approach the art. There's a lot of ways that you could do this. But for example, if your theme that is shared is about race and racism in American society, you could ask the reader to think about some of the injustices that have been present in our society recently. For example, the Black Lives Matter movement or the violence against Asian Americans that we've seen in the past week or so. You could invite the reader to enter the exhibit thinking about those things. Secondly, you could tell them, like let's say you're talking about calling dreams. You could say, enter this exhibit thinking about your life goals and the things that you could do to get to your life goals. Anything that tells the reader, like, this is why you want to be interested in this art. This is why you should care. That's a good way to start off. And then I want you to include a quotation from the text that's particularly relevant. You've already chosen 2 quotations in your planning document, so you can probably use one of those. Find some way to integrate that into your paragraph. Don't just stick a quotation in there. But it could be something as simple as, as Georgia Douglas Johnson said in Calling Dreams, I demand the right to make my dreams come true out of life. I think I had that quotation backwards, but something along those lines. Finally, you're connecting to a broader theme about life or a lesson that the reader can take away from the exhibit. They've come into the exhibit, you've told them how to appreciate the art. What do they do as they leave the art, as they go back out into the world? To go back to some of my earlier examples, if you're writing about injustice or racism in the world, you could tell your reader, now that you've experienced this art, go out into the world and work for justice in your community. If you're writing about Calling Dreams, you could tell the reader, now that you've experienced this art, go out and chase your dreams. Make sure that you are not going to regret your life later on. Anything like that that closes everything off and sends the reader out into the world, that's acceptable. In paragraph 3, I'm going to be pretty generous with my grading on this section because I want you guys to be creative and have fun with it. I want you to try something. If you're feeling stuck, talk to me, but also just put words on the page. It does not have to be perfect. You do not need to have, museum quality writing yet. That's okay if you don't. Put something on the page, try something, and I promise you'll probably impress yourself with it. All right, send me an email, come to office hours, join the breakout rooms if you need help with any of this, and remember that your project is due the last day before spring break. All right, bye everybody.